美国1月15日，参议院大动作举行确认听证会，同时对川普提名的国务卿马可·卢比奥、司法部长帕姆·邦迪、中央情报局局长约翰·拉特克利夫、预算办公室主任拉塞尔·沃特、能源部长克里斯赖特、交通部长肖恩·达菲进行质询。现在就让我们一起来听听各部门提名人的开场陈述吧。首先是国务卿提名人马可·卢比奥在参议院外交关系委员会确认听证会上的开场陈述。
Let me just say it's a bit surreal to be on this side of the room, but you all look very distinguished. And I wanted you to know that.
Yeah. We know.
In the 249-year history of our republic, there's only been 71 other Americans who have served in the role and the position that President Trump has now nominated me to occupy. And I want to thank him for his confidence, and it's an incredible honor. It is also, as many of you have already pointed out, an extraordinary responsibility. Three of my children, Amanda, Anthony, and Dominic, could not be here with us today or join us here in person. But I am happy that my wife Jeanette is here and that my daughter Daniela is here with me as well, because I think, as each of you know well, it really is impossible to do our job in the Senate, not to mention the job I've been nominated for, without the love and the support of our families. I'm also very pleased that my sisters, Barbara and Veronica, and my nephew Orlando, are joining me here today. And to me, it's a reminder that the path that brings me to this moment was paved by those who are not here with us today, by two parents who arrived here on May 27th of 1956 from Cuba, and they had nothing but the dreams of a better life. And because of them, I had the privilege to be born a citizen of the greatest nation in the history of mankind, and to be raised in a safe and stable home by parents who made their children's future the very purpose of their lives. I also want to acknowledge all the blessings that God has bestowed upon me in my life. My faith is critical, and it's something I will lean and rely on heavily in the months that are ahead. In a tumultuous world where, in my faith, we are called to promote the cause of peace and the common good. And that task has gotten harder than it's ever been. And I will rely heavily on my faith and pray for God's blessings, that He will provide me the strength, the wisdom, and the courage to do what is right in these tenuous moments. At the end of the Second World War, the United States was, in the words of then Secretary of State, tasked with creating an order, a world order, a free half, as he quote in his quote, out of chaos, without blowing to pieces, without blowing the whole of the world into pieces in the process. And in the decades that followed, that global order served us quite well. Americans' incomes rose and communities flourished. Alliances emerged in the Indo-Pacific and Europe that led to the emergence of stability and democracy and prosperity in these regions.
You've had forever war ever since. Little Marco, keep your hands.
Back to order.
All right, alliances emerged in the Indo-Pacific and in Europe that led to the emergence of stability, democracy, and prosperity, but it also prevented a cataclysmic world war. And ultimately, a wall in Berlin came down, and with it, an evil empire. Out of the triumphalism of the end of the long Cold War emerged a bipartisan consensus. And this consensus was that we had reached the end of history, that all of the nations of the world would now become members of the democratic Western-led community, that a foreign policy that served the national interest could now be replaced by one that served the liberal world order, and that all mankind was now destined to abandon national sovereignty and national identity and would instead become one human family and citizens of the world. This wasn't just a fantasy. We now know it was a dangerous delusion. Here in America and in many of the advanced economies across the world, an almost religious commitment to free and unfettered trade at the expense of our national economy shrunk the middle class, left the working class in crisis, collapsed our industrial capacity, and has pushed critical supply chains into the hands of adversaries and of rivals. An irrational zeal for maximum freedom of movement of people has resulted in a historic mass migration crisis here in America, but also around the world. It's one that threatens the stability of societies and of governments. Across the West, governments now censor and even prosecute domestic political opponents. Meanwhile, radical jihadists openly march in the streets and sadly drive vehicles into our people. While America far too often continued to prioritize the global order above our core national interests, other nations continue to act the way countries always have.
Las sanciones de Marco Rubio están
Pause.
matando a niños en Nicaragua, Cuba y Venezuela.
Back to order.
I get bilingual protests, which is, I think, is an entry cool.
As you know, that's a first here for us, at least in recent times.
All right.
Healthcare is a human right.
All right.
Education is a human right. Sanctions against
Back to order.
All right. So while America too often prioritized the global order above our core national interests, other nations continued to act the way nations have always acted and always will in what they perceive to be their best interest. And instead of folding into the post-Cold War global order, they have manipulated it to serve their interests at the expense of ours. We welcomed the Chinese Communist Party into the global order, and they took advantage of all of its benefits, and they ignored all of its obligations and responsibilities. Instead, they have repressed and lied and cheated and hacked and stolen their way into global superpower status, and they have done so at our expense and at the expense of the people of their own country. In our very own hemisphere, narco-terrorists and dictators and despots take advantage of open borders to drive mass migration, to traffic in women and children, and to flood our communities with deadly fentanyl and violent criminals. In Moscow, in Tehran, in Pyongyang, dictators, rogue states now sow chaos and instability and align with and they fund radical terror groups. And then they hide behind their veto power at the United Nations Security Council or the threats of nuclear war. The post-war global order is not just obsolete, it is now a weapon being used against us. And all this has led to a moment in which we must now confront the single greatest risk of geopolitical instability and of generational global crisis in the lifetime of anyone alive and in this room today. 8 decades later, we are once again called to create a free world out of the chaos. And this will not be easy. And it will be impossible without a strong and a confident America that engages in the world, putting our core national interests once again above all else. Just 4 years ago, I believe we began to see the outlines and the beginnings of what that would look like. During President Trump's first term, American strength was a deterrent to our adversaries, and it gave us leverage in diplomacy. There were no new wars. ISIS was eviscerated, Soleimani was dead, the historic Abraham Accords were born, and Americans were safer as a result. Now, President Trump returns to office with an unmistakable mandate from the voters. They want a strong America engaged in the world, but guided by a clear objective to promote peace abroad and security and prosperity here at home. That is the promise that President Trump was elected to keep. And if I am confirmed, keeping that promise will be the core mission of the United States Department of State. Now, tragically, horrifying atrocities and unimaginable human suffering can be found on virtually every continent. And I am certain that today I will be asked about the array of programs and the activities the Department of State carries out to address them. We are a nation who was founded on the revolutionary truth that all men are created equal, and that our rights come not from man or from government, but from God. And so we will never be indifferent to the suffering of our fellow man. But ultimately, under President Trump, the top priority of the United States Department of State will be the United States. The direction he has given for the conduct of our foreign policy is clear. Every dollar we spend, every program we fund, every policy we pursue must be justified by the answer to one of 3 questions. Does it make America safer? Does it make America stronger? Or does it make America more prosperous? Under President Trump, the dollars of hardworking American taxpayers will always be spent wisely, and our power will always be yielded prudently and towards what is best for America and Americans before anything and everything else. Prudence in the conduct of foreign policy is not an abandonment of our values. It is the common sense understanding that while we remain the wealthiest and the most powerful nation on the earth, our wealth has never been unlimited, and our power has never been infinite. And placing our core national interest above all else is not isolationism. It is the common sense realization that a foreign policy centered in our national interest is not some outdated relic. Since the emergence of the modern nation state over 2 centuries ago, countries acting based on what they perceive to be their core national interest, that has been the norm, not the exception. And for our country, placing the interest of America and Americans above all else has never been more relevant or more necessary than it is right now. For in the end, how can America promote the cause of peace on earth if it is not first safe at home? What good is America to our allies if it is not strong? And how can America help end the suffering of God's children across the world if it is not first prosperous here at home? I thank you, and I hope I can earn your support, whether it's because you believe I will do a good job or because you want to get rid of me. Thank you.
Either way, the result's the same. Thank you.
再来是参议院司法委员会确认听证会，司法部长提名人帕姆邦迪发表了他的开场陈述。
Thank you, Chairman Grassley, Ranking Member Durbin, and members of the Senate Judiciary Committee. I've had the opportunity to meet with almost all of you, and I greatly appreciate that. I'm grateful to President Trump and to this committee for your consideration to be the 87th Attorney General of the United States. I would not be here without my family. And if you can bear with me for just a moment, a lot of them have made a very long trip, and I wrote them all down so I don't forget anyone. My beautiful mother, who I wouldn't be here, a retired kindergarten teacher, would not be here without my mom. As of a week ago, it was 12 years since we lost my dad to leukemia. Feels like 12 days. My amazing husband, John, and his 2 incredible girls, Collins and Finley. Collins is a senior at University of Florida, and I think all of you on this committee will be very happy to know Finley is in cybersecurity. There's a third who is traveling abroad. I wish she could be here. My amazing father-in-law, David, my sister, Beth, my brother-in-law is home with my niece, my nephews, if you could just raise your hand, Evan, Jake, and soon-to-be niece Savannah, my brother, Brad, a brilliant lawyer, my sister-in-law, Tandy, and my nephews, Justin, who just got a 4.0 at UVA, Rex, great college tennis player, Brad, great tennis player. Is Rhea here? And my niece, my beautiful niece, Rhea, and the little guy is in school because he's 10. My friends, Leslie, Kathy, Dina, Tiffany, Kim, Paula, and so many of my former coworkers. And Ranking Member Durbin, if you want to get dirt on me, these women have known me since I was a child. Seriously, most of them. So thank you for indulging me in that. They've all made a very long trip to be here, and thank you for holding my hearing as well and not postponing it. I appreciate that. Thank you all. From the moment I interned at the state attorney's office in Tampa, Florida, all I wanted to do was be a prosecutor. The Supreme Court certified me, and I had 4 jury trials while still in law school. Lost most of them, but had 4 jury trials and never wanted to do anything else. I continued my career there, trying everything from DUIs, domestic violence cases, capital murder cases, the whole gamut. I became a lead trial attorney in courtroom every day, trying career criminals, was deputy chief of a division, and then ultimately was felony bureau chief, and eventually left to become Florida's 37th Attorney General for the state of Florida. Nothing has impacted my career more than my experience as a state prosecutor, because I got to know and still keep in touch with many victims and their families from when I was a prosecutor. Upon becoming Attorney General in 2011, I proudly served for 2 terms. I was term limited. I would probably still be there right now had I not been kicked out of office by term limits. I loved being Attorney General. I did my best to keep Florida safe, to continue to stand up for victims of crime, and to fight the opioid crisis and the drug crisis that was not only facing Florida, but this entire country. Out of the top 100, this is one of the things I'm the most proud of, oxycodone dispensers in the entire country, I believe it was 98 of them, 90 or 98 of them, lived in Florida. We fought for tough legislation. Kids were dropping dead every day. We fought for tough legislation, and after that legislation, none of those opioid dealers, doctors, practiced in Florida. We fought to eliminate human trafficking by raising awareness and prevention and talking to parents and talking to children. We also provided critical resources, including safe houses, that my state was lacking. On the civil side, we worked to protect consumers. We tackled everything, including off-label prescription marketing, which affects, as you know, many, many people who can't afford prescriptions as well. We partnered with states' attorneys general from both parties and federal agencies across administrations. We went after price gougers during hurricanes. If confirmed as the next Attorney General of the United States, my overriding objective will be to return the Department of Justice to its core mission of keeping Americans safe and vigorously prosecuting criminals. And that includes getting back to basics: gangs, drugs, terrorists, cartels, our border, and our foreign adversaries. That is what the American people expect, and that is what they deserve from the Department of Justice. If confirmed, I will do everything in my power, and it will be my great responsibility to make America safe again. Making America safe again also requires reducing recidivism. We have to fix the Bureau of Prisons, and I am looking on both sides of the aisle. The Bureau has suffered from years of mismanagement, lack of funding, and low morale. I was proud to support President Trump's First Step Act. I think more can be implemented and more can be done on that front. President Trump's leadership on criminal justice reform has demonstrated what is possible when a president is unafraid to do things that have been deemed to be too difficult. We have to reach across the aisle and get solutions for all of these problems. Like the president, I believe we are on the cusp of a new golden age where the Department of Justice can and will do better if I am confirmed. Lastly, and most importantly, if confirmed, I will fight every day to restore confidence and integrity to the Department of Justice and each of its components. The partisanship, the weaponization will be gone. America will have one tier of justice for all. In all this work, I'll collaborate closely with this committee. I will work with all of you, as I've committed to do when I met with almost all of you. And I will partner not only with the federal agencies, but with the state and local officials throughout our great country. I look forward to answering your questions today and working together for this country. and our Constitution. Thank you, Senators.
而在参议院情报委员会的确认听证会上，中央情报局局长提名人约翰·拉特克利夫也发表了他的开场陈述。
Thank you very much, Chairman Cotton, Vice Chairman Warner, and distinguished members of the committee for the opportunity to appear before you as the President's nominee for the Director of the Central Intelligence Agency. I've enjoyed meeting with each of you individually, and I look forward to answering your questions today. Thank you to my friend and mentor, former Attorney General John Ashcroft, for being here today and for his gracious and humbling remarks. Sir, I am forever grateful for your faith in me. Thank you to Director Burns and your excellent team at the CIA for your commitment to a smooth and professional transition. I'd like to recognize my amazing family, my wonderful wife, Michelle, our 2 daughters, Riley and Darby, my 5 brothers and sisters, and watching from above, my parents, Bob and Kathy Ratcliffe. I simply have no words to adequately express my gratitude to all of you. And finally, thank you, President Trump, for the great honor of nominating me to lead the world's premier intelligence agency. I am grateful for the opportunity to serve under you once again, and if confirmed, I will work tirelessly to help you protect the American people and advance America's interests. Today, we face what may be the most challenging national security environment in our nation's history. The Chinese Communist Party remains committed to dominating the world economically, militarily, and technologically. Transnational criminal organizations are flooding American communities with violence and deadly narcotics. The Russia-Ukraine war wages on, spreading devastation and increasing the risk of the United States being pulled into a conflict with a nuclear power. The Iranian regime and its terrorist proxies continue to export mayhem across the Middle East, and Iran is closer to nuclear breakout than ever before. North Korea remains a destabilizing force, and increasing coordination among America's rivals and adversaries threatens to compound the threats that they each pose to us individually. And numerous terrorist groups and other non-state actors, some of which have even crossed our southern border, still pose a persistent threat to our people and our homeland. These threats converge at a time of rapid technological change. Emerging technologies like artificial intelligence and quantum computing will define the future of national security, geopolitical power, and human civilization. Ubiquitous technical surveillance is presenting unprecedented challenges to one of the CIA's core missions, collecting human intelligence. In short, the challenges are great and increase the necessity of confirming a CIA director who is prepared on day one to take them head on. For roughly a quarter of a century, I have devoted my professional life to U.S. national security. I served as the Chief of Anti-Terrorism and National Security and then U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Texas. As a congressman, I was a member of the House Intelligence, Homeland Security, and Judiciary Committees. As Director of National Intelligence, I had the privilege of working closely with President Trump and oversaw the 18 agencies of the U.S. intelligence community, including the agency I now have the honor of being nominated to lead. In each of these roles, I served with fidelity to the Constitution and a strict adherence to the rule of law, and I have always prioritized American civil liberties, something I will continue to do if confirmed to serve again. Each of these experiences has shaped me as a leader and national security professional. Together, they have prepared me to steer the CIA through a tumultuous time in the world and toward a future in which the CIA's mission will be both more difficult and more indispensable than ever before. If confirmed, my leadership at CIA will focus on setting and communicating priorities and demanding relentless execution. Above all, will be a strict adherence to the CIA's mission. We will collect intelligence, especially human intelligence, in every corner of the globe, no matter how dark or difficult. We will produce insightful, objective, all-source analysis, never allowing political or personal biases to cloud our judgment or infect our products. We will conduct covert action at the direction of the President, going places no one else can go and doing things no one else can do. To the brave CIA officers listening around the world, if all of this sounds like what you signed up for, then buckle up and get ready to make a difference. If it doesn't, then it's time to find a new line of work. We must be the ultimate meritocracy. I will unapologetically empower the most talented, hardest working, and most courageous risk takers and innovators to protect the American people and advance America's interests. And I will not tolerate anything or anyone that distracts from our mission. It would be inappropriate in unclassified setting for me to discuss in detail some of my views on intelligence collection priorities, but I'm happy to do so in the classified hearing that will follow this one. However, if confirmed, there are several organizational priorities that I plan to focus on that I'd like to discuss here. The first is talent. As you are all no doubt aware, the CIA has a remarkably low turnover rate among its workforce. This shows the CIA's success in attracting mission-focused public servants who find deep meaning and value in the unique work they're privileged to do every day. But in some cases, it also suggests that complacency is tolerated. High performers hate nothing more than mediocrity, and nothing poisons a high-performance workplace culture more than leaders who don't hold team members accountable when they don't meet expectations. The CIA must be a place that incentivizes and rewards meaningful contributions to our nation's security and holds accountable low performers and bad actors who are not focused on our mission. It has been said that the CIA's World War II predecessor, the OSS, described its ideal recruit as, quote, a PhD who could win a bar fight, end quote. This sentiment is the essence of what today's CIA must recapture. But we must find that fighting spirit in recruits whose talents, skill sets, and backgrounds are more varied than ever. I will also work to develop pathways for mid-career professionals with highly sought-after skills to fill gaps in the agency's workforce and for CIA officers to do rotations in the private sector that broaden their perspectives. I am committed to protecting and supporting CIA's workforce. We will fully investigate workforce health and wellness issues, including anomalous health incidents. Our officers must embrace a culture of toughness and resilience, but we must also be clear that when they put themselves in harm's way, we will make sure they are taken care of when they return home. We owe that to America's men and women in uniform, and we owe it to the silent warriors who risk their lives in the shadows as well. Altogether, these talent strategies will be particularly important in addressing another organizational priority that I will focus on: technology. At the CIA, technology is both a tool and a target. As a tool, technology is baked into nearly every facet of the agency, from the spy gadgets imagined and created by the Directorate of Science and Technology and used by the Directorate of Operations, and the cyber capabilities deployed by the Directorate of Digital Innovation, to the Directorate of Support, using new technology tools to support our workforce, and the AI-powered large language models used by the Directorate of Analysis. But over the decades, as technological innovation has shifted more and more from the public sector to the private sector, the CIA has struggled to keep pace. As a target, technology is more important than ever. Whether it's understanding our adversaries' capability in AI and quantum computing, or their developments in hypersonics and emerging space technologies, or their innovations in counterintelligence and surveillance. The recent creation of the agency's Transnational and Technology Mission Center was an acknowledgement of that fact, but much more has to be done. Because our adversaries, and one in particular that I will discuss now, understand that the nation who wins the race of emerging technologies of today will dominate the world of tomorrow. Which brings me to the need for the CIA to continue and increase in intensity the focus on the threats posed by China and its ruling Chinese Communist Party. As DNI, I dramatically increased the intelligence community's resources devoted to China. I openly warned the American people that from my unique vantage point as an official who saw more intelligence than anyone else, I assessed that China was far and away our top national security threat. President Trump has been an incredible leader on this issue, and it is encouraging that a bipartisan consensus has emerged in recent years. The recent creation of the CIA's China Mission Center is an example of the good work that must continue. In closing, the agency must provide the President and U.S. policymakers with the best possible intelligence to inform their decision-making in hopes of preserving peace and spreading prosperity. This is our once-in-a-generation challenge. The intelligence is clear. Our response must be clear as well. I'm honored for the opportunity to appear before you today, and I thank you for your consideration of my nomination to be the director of the CIA, and I look forward to answering your questions.
与此同时，预算办公室主任提名人拉塞尔沃特也在参议院国土安全与政府事务委员会确认听证会上发表了他的开场陈述。
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member, members of the esteemed committee for the opportunity to appear before you today. Let me begin by thanking my girls, Ella and Porter, who are now returning to the scene of congressional confirmation hearings as wily veterans. Their love and support and enthusiasm for me serving again is a major reason for why I feel that my going back into OMB is the right endeavor at the right moment, beyond my enthusiasm for being at President Trump's side. It is a profound honor to be nominated a second time by President Trump to serve as the director of the Office of Management and Budget. The President has promised the American people a federal government that works for all Americans, not the interests of bureaucrats and an entrenched establishment. Making a start in fulfilling that vital promise during my previous time at OMB as Deputy Director and Director was among the most rewarding experiences of my career. Throughout my career, I have been driven by a commitment to taxpayers and their families. Growing up as the son of an electrician and a school teacher, I saw firsthand the sacrifices my parents made to balance their budget and save for the future. They are a reminder of the burden of government spending can place on everyday Americans. My parents and countless others like them have always been the measure of which I evaluate policies and spending decisions. Today, nearly 80% of Americans do not feel confident that their children will lead better lives than they have. That's nearly double the 40% of Americans who said the same just 2 decades ago. When I look at government waste and our national debt, I fear for my daughter's futures. Almost half of our fellow citizens expect their standard of living to be worse than that of their parents, a critical part of understanding the president's overwhelmingly successful election. I am eager to get back to fulfilling the promise of a federal government that works as hard as people like my parents. OMB's mission goes beyond crafting the president's budget. It encompasses the management of the federal government, reforming regulation, and coordinating policies across agencies to ensure efficient and effective implementation of the American people's will as expressed by both their legislative and executive representatives. A strong interagency process delivers the best results for all Americans, and I believe OMB's collaborative ethos is key to achieving those outcomes. The civil servants at OMB are among the most resourceful and innovative individuals I have worked with. It has been my privilege to work alongside them, and I look forward to leading and supporting them as director once again as we labor to make the American government work again. We have to use taxpayer dollars wisely because inflation driven by irresponsible federal spending taxes Americans twice. The average American household has lost roughly $2,000 of purchasing powers just since January 2021. The forgotten men and women of this country, those who work hard every day in cities and towns across this country, deserve a government that empowers them to achieve their dreams. While Office of Management and Budget may not be a household term, the agency's work is profoundly one that impacts their lives. If confirmed, I will continue to serve with the best interests of at their heart to serve and strive to ensure every decision contributes to a more prosperous future for all Americans. Thank you for considering my nomination. I look forward to answering your questions and the opportunity to discuss how OMB can continue to deliver on its vital mission.
接下来则是能源部长提名人克里斯赖特在参议院能源与自然资源委员会确认听证会上的开场陈述。
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member Heinrich, and members of the committee. Thank you also to Senator Hickenlooper and Senator Hoeven for your kind remarks, friendship, and for your continued service to our centennial state and great nation. Before I begin my remarks, I would like to recognize the members of my family who have joined me today. My wife, Liz, my daughter, Skylar, and her husband, Greg, my 7-month-old grandsons, Miles, my son, Arthur, his fiancée, Aluel. Also in the crowd, not needing identification, is my mother, Gayla, sister, Kim, many other extended family, and friends as well. The most fortunate event in my very fortunate life was meeting my wife, Liz, when I was 18 years old. I came home that night and told my sister that I had met the woman that I would marry. It is truly an honor to appear before this committee as President-elect Trump's nominee for Secretary of Energy. I am humbled by the great responsibility this position holds. America has an historic opportunity to secure our energy systems, deliver leadership in scientific and technological innovation, steward our weapons stockpiles, and meet Cold War legacy waste commitments. I call myself a science geek turned tech nerd turned lifelong energy entrepreneur. My fascination with energy started at a young age in Denver, Colorado. I enrolled at MIT specifically to work on fusion energy. I started graduate school at UC Berkeley, where I worked on solar energy as well as power electronics. Energy is the essential agent of change that enables everything that we do, everything. A low-energy society is poor. A highly energized society can bring health, wealth, and opportunity for all. The stated mission of the company that I founded, Liberty Energy, is to better human lives through energy. Liberty works directly in oil, natural gas, next-generation geothermal, and has partnerships in next-generation nuclear energy and new battery technology. Energy has been a lifelong passion of mine, and I've... Energy has been a lifelong passion of mine, and I've never been shy about that fact. Then again, I've never been shy about much. President Trump shares my passion for energy, and if confirmed, I will work tirelessly to implement his bold agenda as an unabashed steward for all sources of affordable, reliable, and secure American energy. I see 3 immediate tasks where I'll focus my attention if I get the privilege of being confirmed. The first is to unleash American energy at home and abroad to restore our energy dominance. The security of our nation begins with energy. Previous administrations have viewed energy as a liability instead of the immense national asset that it is. To compete globally, we must expand energy production, including commercial nuclear and liquefied natural gas, and cut the cost of energy for Americans. Second, we must lead the world in innovation and technology breakthroughs. Throughout my lifetime, technology and innovation have immeasurably enhanced the human condition. We must protect and accelerate the work of the department's national laboratory network to secure America's competitive advantage and its security. I commit to working with Congress on the important missions of the national laboratories. Third, we must build things in America again and remove barriers to progress. Federal policies today make it too easy to stop projects and very hard to start and complete projects. This makes energy more expensive and less reliable. President Trump is committed to lowering energy costs, and to do so, we must prioritize cutting red tape, enabling the private sector investments, and building the infrastructure we need to make energy more affordable for families and businesses. I've met with almost every member of the committee, and I appreciate the perspective, priorities, and insight that you have shared. As a nerdy guy who reads and studies data, I will need the guidance and partnership of this committee. I feel confident we can work together to make a difference. I look forward to answering your questions and, if confirmed, shepherding the President's bold energy agenda to unleash energy security and prosperity. Mr. Chairman, thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I look forward to answering the committee's questions.
最后再来听一听交通部长提名人肖恩·达菲在参议院商业科学和交通委员会确认听证会上的开场陈述。
Chairman Cruz, Ranking Member Cantwell, members of the committee, it is a privilege to be before all of you today. I'm grateful for Senator Johnson and Senator Baldwin for the very kind introduction. They come from the great state, or I know you guys all want to object, the greatest state in the country, Wisconsin, so I appreciate that, Senator. And I also appreciate your friendship and bipartisanship as well. It's an honor to be before this committee today, and I'm humbled by the fact that President Trump would have nominated me to this very important position. If confirmed, it'll be a privilege of a lifetime to serve the American people as the Secretary of Transportation. I look forward to closely working with this committee as you provide oversight and guidance to the Department of Transportation. If I could take a moment, I'd like to introduce my family, my wife, Rachel Campostafi, and our 9 children. Rachel and I met on a reality TV show, kind of unique, and not most people have that. We've been married for 25 years. Rachel is the love of my life. She's my best friend, and she is a wonderful, incredible mother to our 9 children. 8 of them are here today with us. If I could introduce them to the committee, my oldest is Evita. She's right here. Her husband, Michael. My daughter, Lucia Belen. John Paul, Paloma, Maria Victoria. She also goes by Mud, her choice. Margarita, Patrick, and Valentina. Now, my youngest is Valentina. She was born with Down syndrome, and she no doubt is our family's favorite. She was hugging Senator Baldwin on the way in, showing great bipartisan love. Hopefully she'll be behaved for the hearing today. My oldest son, Jack, and his wife, Kaylin, couldn't be here today. They just had a baby, Lourdes. They also are residents of Southern California. They've had to evacuate their home. And I know that the committee and America's hearts go out to all the families being impacted by the fires. We're dealing with that in our own family, so prayers to them. I'd also like to acknowledge my mother and father-in-law, Pilar and Miguel. They're here to show their support. I'm grateful they took a leap of faith, allowing me to marry their daughter 25 years ago, and it was a leap of faith, no doubt. So, as a father of 9 kids, I think about transportation quite a bit, and about transportation safety a lot. My son, John Paul, who I introduced, drives his younger siblings to school every day, and for us, that is precious cargo. Whether driving, flying, or traveling by train, no federal agency impacts Americans' daily lives and loved ones more than the Department of Transportation. I'm honored to have the trust of President Trump and hopefully this body to lead such an important segment of our economy. Transportation influences how long it takes to get home to our loved ones, and improving its safety and efficiency directly enhances every single American's life. President Trump, he's a builder. He wants to invest in rebuilding our nation's crumbling infrastructure. He asked me to focus, and I told, I think, all of you this, on the big, the durable projects that connect our country and connect our people. If confirmed, I will work to reduce the red tape that slows critical infrastructure projects, ensuring funds are spent efficiently. We use the tax dollar well. Safety, always paramount. Every year, 40,000 Americans lose their lives in roadway accidents. This hits close to home for me because my wife survived a deadly head-on car crash, which has profoundly reshaped her life. If confirmed, I'll prioritize road safety, ensuring lives and families aren't forever changed by preventable accidents. In aviation, safety will remain a top priority. America needs more air traffic controllers. Many of you have talked about that with me. We want the best and the brightest air traffic controllers. We must modernize our systems with cutting-edge technologies. I'll work with Congress and the FAA to restore global confidence in Boeing and to ensure that our skies are safe. Transportation is an extraordinary new era we're entering in. From eVTOLs, drones, autonomous vehicles, to space travel, we're in a global race to out-innovate and out-compete the rest of the world. If confirmed, we will craft clear regulations which balance safety, innovation, and cutting-edge technology, but always focused on safety. Transportation impacts every aspect of life, from efficiently and securely moving products through our ports, to the ease of commuting from work to school, but also to church on Sunday. Together with President Trump and this committee and the entire DOT team, I would hope to usher in a golden age of transportation and travel. This is America. Americans dream big and lead the world in innovation. If confirmed as Secretary of Transportation, I will work tirelessly to make travel in America more efficient, more comfortable, and safer. Americans deserve to have travel experiences that make all of us proud. So I want to get to work with all of you and the staff at the DOT. I want to thank you all for welcoming my big family and me to the committee room today. And I look forward to, I think, taking your questions.